All right, let's pick it right back up. And Mark, I wanted you to finish your thoughts with Building 7. You weren't implying that the firefighters actually perpetrated the controlled demolition of that building, were you?
No, not at all. I was just saying that the people of New York that were on the ground didn't stop that building from being detonated by basically saying, well, why are you taking the building down that's structurally intact? Nobody attempted to stop that. And as you pointed out, that's due to all the trauma and the fear the people were under, and you don't think straight when you're in that condition.
They were all crazy. And Steve Stars is also joining us. And Steve, I know you have been paying attention to this, and Flight 93 specifically. Your thoughts?
Well, I think you guys are right about your suggestion that Flight 93 was intended to hit World Trade Center 7. I think it was a very good possibility that was what was going to happen, because remember, Flight 93 was delayed in takeoff. That's what threw it outside the window. By the time the hijacking had taken place, which was about 9:28 a.m., Flight 93 was 40 minutes behind the whole scenario. They were already on their way to western Pennsylvania, because they took off from Newark, which is a short hop away from where the Trade Center would have been. They could have easily had the hijacking taking place a lot earlier inside that window. They could have been back around and taken out World Trade Center 7 with 93. But the time that this all happened, they were way out in western Pennsylvania. And that's when the hijacking took place. It was too late. They didn't hear from the cockpit again. They came back. They wandered a little bit to the south, a little to the north, a little to the south. And finally they said, we better take the plane down and pull the building. So this was the big hitch. This was what happened and why World Trade Center 7 wasn't hit. I'm certain it was slated to be one of the first buildings, and maybe could have even been the first for all we know. But that's where it went wrong on the flight delay.
Interesting stuff. All right, let's shift gears from 9/11 though for a moment. And we're always talking about 9/11. It's not going away. I brought it up in front of my city commission. It's almost 10 years now, and Popeye and others will be in New York to remember 9/11 and the true nature of it, not the lies that we saw from the mainstream, using it as a pretext to then kill 1 million plus people. Scary, scary stuff. And anyways, we'll shift gears from that for a moment to a much more important of a story, a very important story, probably the most important story of our lifetimes. That's right, folks. Anthony Weiner resigned today in the news. Big story, let me tell you. And here with some more in-depth research on such an important topic is our correspondent, Steve Stars.
Right on, Bob. Well, the fact is there may be a whole lot more here than meets the eye on the surface, too, because there are some things about this situation that smack of a political assassination. Remember what happened with Eliot Spitzer when he was writing letters to the Washington Post, I guess, and talking about the problems that all of these comptrollers in the states had with what was happening with the banking, lending, and home practices.
Oh, yeah. Good old client number 6.
Well,
or number 5, or whatever it was.
Now he's at the Emperor's Club or wherever the place is, along with other people whose names don't show up. Yeah, and as you guys pointed out so adequately, so very well, there's all kinds of evil sexual, trysts and twists going on all over Washington. And now we have a guy who's being blasted in the media. Okay, here's the most important thing, though. Look at who his wife is. All right, nobody knows much about her. She has been with Hillary Clinton for almost, 8 to 10 years now. Just basically under her arm everywhere she goes. Rumor is, and it seems to be very strong, that Hillary Clinton's lesbian lover is Anthony Weiner's wife, whose name is Houman Abadan, I guess it is the way it's. She also went to Georgetown. She was a Palestinian woman.
Really?
Yeah, the whole catch here is this. In 2006, Weiner tried to ban the PA delegation from entering the United Nations, stating that for the reason that the PA is not an official representative of the Palestinian Liberation Organization and is to avoid the parent group's label as an outward terrorist organization. Representative Weiner introduced in Congress in 2007 the Saudi Arabia Accountability Act. Designed to halt Saudi support for institutions that fund, train, incite, encourage, and in any other way to aid and abet terrorism, and to secure full Saudi cooperation in the investigation of terrorist incidents. Now, what is a Jewish man doing with a Muslim wife? Muslim women do not marry Jewish men unless...
Well, wait a second, though. I'm from a Jewish background. I don't practice the religion, nor do I support the Zionist agenda. But I would be happy to marry anyone from any background. In fact, let me take that back. I'm not getting married because
you're going to get your calls here, right?
Yeah, the whole institution is crap in general. It's just a legal contract. But if I'm in love with somebody, I don't care that I came from a Jewish background and that the two conflict. But anyways, go ahead. What's your point?
Well, this is very interesting though, because remember, she is she's a senior advisor to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and has probably had an ongoing lesbian affair with the Secretary of State for 8 or 9 years before she marries Weiner. Hello? I mean, what's going on here?
Winning.
Okay. Yeah, ding, ding. Now, this is a story by Barry Shamash. I should credit the source. You can Google Barry Shamash.
Sure, we've had Barry on the show.
Yeah, we might get him on to follow up on this when we find out more about what's going on. But this was posted June 13th. The story's name is Anthony Weiner and Matahari. And so, but there's some interesting stuff here. Muslim women normally do not marry Jewish men unless there's a reason. President Clinton does not officiate at their wedding unless there's a reason. And Jewish congressmen are not publicly exposed as sexual deviants while their wife is touring the Middle East as the senior advisor to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton without one heck of a good reason, too. Anthony Weiner is Israel's most vocal Democratic supporter in Congress. Okay, we pointed this out. This looks like it could have been an attempt to blackmail, and this is another Elliot Spitzer situation. So while everybody's laughing and having fun, which is just what stupid Americans do every time they're embarrassed and insulted by this kind of news and reporting, they never look any deeper as to see why this political assassination is taking place. There's something going on here that apparently I think is a big muscle-down plan, probably, presumably, along with Barack Obama's. Well, here's what Barry says anyway. Weiner's stand on Israel awaited a change orchestrated by President Obama and his loyal Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Just like Israelis, Americans are mostly incapable of seeing one level below the surface to understand the hatched plot. And the Weiner scandal just screams cynical, high-level conspiracy at anyone who cares to listen. Shall we begin with his new wife and his mother-in-law? Of course, he talks about how, she was born in the United States, but then spent the next, 11, 12 years, I believe it was, in Saudi Arabia. They're very, very high up in the Saudi Arabian government. So it's really strange that she marries this vocal congressman, this Democratic congressman who is one of the top APEC guys.
That's strange, Steve, but I'm still not seeing why this is anything more than just a distraction. Well, what's the point of this? I mean, who cares if, how does this affect us?
Okay. I think it's far more than a distraction. I think what it is a political assassination. I believe the situation, because you remember when Bibi was here, Bibi Netanyahu and Obama, and they were both looking at each other in the Oval Office, and you could feel the tension, you know what I mean? There's some real serious problems with the kind of policy that Obama wants to force down Israel's. Well, the whole peace talk situation isn't going over very well. You got Weiner, who is a very vocal Zionist organization supporter, probably the key guy right now, married to, this odd, strange situation, this Saudi Arabian woman who is also an advisor and apparently, or at least allegedly, I'll say allegedly, Hillary Clinton's longtime lesbian lover. Okay, now all of a sudden, this whole thing turns around, and as, Popeye and you guys were pointing out before, I mean, most of this stuff is juvenile kiddie stuff. I mean, it's not like it's like Popeye was talking about, hosting a gay brothel or some of these atrocious pedophilic crimes that were just covered up. I mean, what I'm getting at is there's more to this. I'm not saying that I know everything that's here yet, but there's more to this story than just the laugh, tee-hee-hee kind of stupid stuff that people who follow these things around think is on the surface. That's all I'm saying. Look a little deeper. Let's investigate and find out what's really going on here.
All right, fair enough. I'm open to that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Steve. I didn't mean to give you a hard time, but I'm skeptical of spending too much energy learning the ins and outs of these stories because I've just been burnt so many times in the past. And this last segment of tonight's Bob Tuskin show, we have great guests with us, Popeye from FederalJack.com, Mark Passio, whatonearthishappening.com and Oracle Broadcasting, and Steve Starr's on the line, and you possibly at 866-841-1065. We're going to dedicate this last segment of tonight's program to no distractions, no news, just solutions. And talk about gardening, talk about whatever you guys want, just solutions, and end on a good uplifting note after great show, and always a pleasure to have Mark with us. We'll have him back to do more of his own show with a lecture on some of the many different topics and research that he has. All right, folks, hold that thought. We'll be back in just a moment. This is the Bob Tuskin Show.